too strong. There's a spot for one of these young teams right now, the Mavericks, the Suns, the Timberwolves, the Pelicans. One to two of those teams could wind up making the postseason. So I just think that it's encouraging to see Hayes playing the way he is, and you have to hope that his development continues when Zion comes back. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, no,
I
I
promise.
hear
No
you.
more throwing you under the bus.
In a
You're done.
vacuum, I like Hayes. I like Hayes in a vacuum. Look, if Hayes was on, let's say, like the Thunder, where Adams may be leaving soon, if he was on the Spurs, even if he was on the Grizzlies, where they hadn't gotten Brandon Clark or something. I mean, I love Brandon Clark, but let's say they had him. He's a good fit with some of those teams. I mean, that's a nice fit for him. But on this team, you can't play him with Zion. Those guys just can't play together. And, you know, I've watched it with my Bulls and guys who maybe don't mesh as well in the front court, and it's tough. I mean, it's a tough thing to watch. But at any rate, before we get to anything else, I want to start by getting to the Nets news of the week. See, you've been on me, and before the show, I mentioned something that I should have known would get you fired up, which was that Kyrie Irving goes down with an injury, and the Nets, let's say, have a lighter schedule from that point onwards, and they go on a nice run. And I mentioned the lighter schedule because it's not as if they've played a murderer's row since Kyrie went out. And incidentally, Jason, or some would say causally, the Nets have gone on quite a nice little run. They've won 4 games in a row. What do you make of this? I believe you call it narrative.
So I'm just going to ask anyone listening, my beloved partner and friend Ben, stop the Kyrie is not good narrative. Stop the Nets are better off without him long-term narrative. Okay? Kyrie Irving may have his share of issues, whether it's mental, whether it's the injuries, but he is still a top-flight player in this league and a bona fide superstar. Okay, the Nets right now are doing exactly what they're supposed to be doing. Kyrie goes down with shoulder impingement. Hopefully surgery is not required, and rest and rehab will get him back on the court sooner rather than later. But what the Nets are doing is they're beating all bad teams, and they're waiting for their reinforcements. They're doing exactly what they're supposed to do, changing the narrative of their season from being an under 500 team to, as we stand today, an over 500 team. Now we'll see what happens. They have a home and home coming up with the Celtics on Wednesday and Friday. I think those will be very tough tests. And if the Nets win one of those games, I'll be a happy camper. But right now, the Nets need Kyrie Irving. They need Kevin Durant. They need Karis LeVert. The fact that the Nets have won against Charlotte, Sacramento, the Knicks, the Cavs, 2 of those wins were by 2 points. Very close. But it just goes to show that these role players are stepping up in a big way. It's that next man up mentality. And when the 3 best players come back, that's what you have to hope would make the Nets a championship contender. Kyrie Irving is very much needed. And it's very important that people do not lose sight of that. And the players on the roster are saying all the right things because they know how temperamental he can be, and he needs to feel needed. He needs to feel important. He's a human being. But the Nets will be fine when Kyrie comes back. And this is why. Okay, the Nets are coming in at 9-8 as we're recording this podcast, right? Do you know how many games, Ben, they blew double-digit leads in out of their 8 losses?
How many?
5. So if Kyrie, whether he went down or not, and played in all those games, the Nets blew 10-plus point leads, the Nets could be sitting here at 14-3. And I'm not saying they would have been. But had they held on to all those double-digit leads and have the same amount of wins, they would be 14-3. They'd be tied with the Bucks atop the East, and they would be right below the Lakers for the best record in the league. That's how good of a coach Kenny Atkinson is becoming. That's why I'm not worried. Okay, they're starting to look like a team. You got the reigning Eastern Conference Player of the Week in Spencer Dinwiddie, scoring 20-plus points a night, doing his thing. Jared Allen, already with 7 double-doubles on the year, including a 2020 game. He had 22 points and 21 rebounds on Monday night against Cleveland. This kid is just 21 years old, getting better and better. You mentioned before the show how much you like Joe Harris. He's stepping up in a big way, and not just in spot-up shooting. He's getting to the rim. You know, Monday night against Cleveland, Kenny Atkinson orchestrated the perfect ATO play. After the timeout, Joe Harris hit a layup within 3 seconds of the ball being inbounded. That just shows how good Kenny Atkinson is as a developmental coach, because 3 of those guys I just named are all products of the Nets rebuild. of the development that Sean Marks and Kenny Atkinson have preached. And then real quick, I'll let you get your 2 cents in before we move on, but I love the addition of Iman Shumpert because since he's joined the team and started playing, the Nets are defending better as a unit. You have him and DeAndre Jordan in that second unit. That's very good. Even though both of those guys are a little bit older, those are the types of guys you need on a championship team.
So I'm gonna play devil's advocate here because everyone knows I love Kyrie, but I think one thing that you can say, the case that you make here, if you want to make the case against Kyrie Irving, I think the case is that there are guys who can play better within a system. And when Kyrie's out there, he can become a system unto himself. He becomes the guy who's controlling the offense. And that is generally a great thing. He's one of the best offensive players in the league. And let's repeat that for those out there that are haters or critics of Kyrie. He is one of the best offensive players in the league. He has the best handle in the game. He's one of the best shooters in the league. And overall is likely a top 10 offensive player. However, you can note that when you watch these games, Kyrie Irving does take over the offense for possessions. He's a guy who really does tend to become kind of a force out there, and his style of play doesn't necessarily draw double teams in ways that guys like a James Harden, when they get into the paint for layups, they're drawing a double, which allows the kick out. Kyrie Irving is much better as an isolation scorer one-on-one. And that does have an impact. And you do see guys on the Nets. I said this to you before the show, but undoubtedly someone like a Spencer Dinwiddie, who's one of the best isolation players in the league, is going to thrive without Irving at points because he gets to cook. He gets to do things that he's not going to do as much. But the thing that people also have to look at and remember is that does not make the Nets a better team. And this is the key piece. The reason why Kyrie gets to do that is because he is one of the best players in the league at it. He is one of the best scorers, one of the best offensive players. You are better off with Kyrie Irving controlling your offense than Spencer Dinwiddie. And that's not an opinion, that is just the truth. If you watch basketball, you know which one of those guys you'd want to be running your offense. Now, we could talk about the system and how that affects the mentality of other players, but the reality is that on this Nets team, Kyrie Irving is a benefit for them. He's one of the best offensive players, and they're a better team with him than without him. And to say anything else is just foolishness.
Well, can we just give Jared Allen one more shout out before we move on? I mean, this kid, from when he came into the league as a skinny 19-year-old from Texas with scouts questioning his desire to play the game, came into the right situation, and now is one of the more fearsome big men in the NBA. You know, he's playing defense. He blocked a potential go ahead Jordan Clarkson layup, which led to the Dinwiddie game winner on Monday night. I mean, he's all over the floor. He's finishing around the rim. He's leading the league in field goal percentage. I am just so happy to have Jared Allen on the Nets, my favorite team, and I am hoping there is a Jared Allen jersey waiting for me under my Christmas tree. That is my holiday wish.
Yeah, I mean, we also have to just see because it looks like Atkinson has started to realize how poorly DeAndre Jordan is affecting the defense, and he's started to play Allen more minutes. You can just see it in the game. He's getting a little bit more in these past few games, and as they've gotten closer, it's clear that Atkinson knows who needs to be out there in the close games. And I think that Allen is the guy. I mean, he's got to play more minutes. It's one of the biggest ways for the Nets to improve is Allen is still only playing 26 minutes a game. That should inch closer to 30 as the season goes on because he's head and shoulders better than DeAndre Jordan at this point in their respective careers. And it's one of the number one things that Kenny Atkinson just needs to pull the Band-Aid off. I mean, yes, DeAndre Jordan got a lot of money this offseason. Yes, he's good friends with Durant and Irving, but Allen's the better player, and it's just not close.
Oh, I love hearing you be a pseudo Nets fan, man. It really warms my heart. And I hope we get to go to a Nets Bulls game together early in 2020.
I
But
mean,
do you want to do the Bulls now? I noticed you kind of did some truffle shuffling with the
well,
notes here.
I want to I'm gonna do something kind of sneaky here, which is that we're going to, as part of this Thanksgiving special baseline jumper, we're gonna talk about what we're thankful for, and it just works right into Ben's Bulls Bliss because, of course, the number one thing I'm thankful for is our wonderful audience, my wonderful podcast partner Jason, and this podcast as a whole. I can't say enough. It's still one of my favorite things in the week, if not my favorite every week. I love doing it, love talking hoops, and I love talking to you, my friend. But I also got my Christmas present early, which was a 49-point outing from the one, the only, Zach LaVine, the embattled Zach LaVine, who was questioned by his coach, who got thrown under the bus by his coach in multiple ways. Jim Boylan decided to pull Zach LaVine about 3 minutes into the previous game prior to playing the Hornets, and then post game basically went off on LaVine. Before then, LaVine was interviewed afterwards and said something to the effect of, "It's hard to trust someone who doesn't trust you." The way that Zach responded was going to be an interesting storyline, and he responded pretty well, Jason. He posted 49 points on 13 threes, which is one less than the record. Um, and the Golden State duo of Curry and Thompson are right there, 1-2. And now LaVine is in that same breath with his 13 threes, including my favorite moment as a basketball fan in the past 3 years. Yes, it's been a sad 3 years as a Bulls fan, guys. Zach LaVine, miracle shots in the fourth quarter, banks in a three, hits another cold-blooded three, and then finally, down, they get the steal. LaVine, whether if you're an old head basketball fan, you might have thought this was just egregious. He dribbles it out from near the rim, out to the three-point line to shoot a fadeaway three, but it's nothing but net. Ends up being the game winner. LaVine ends up with 49 points. I may have disturbed my neighbors. I definitely disturbed my wife, who thought something was wrong. Uh, but it was a great moment and probably my favorite Bulls moment since. Sorry, Jason. Nate Robinson and the shorthanded Bulls against the Nets. So it's been a rough few years, and this was a nice Christmas present come early.
Well, can I tell you what the highlight of my weekend was, aside from the copious amounts of Christmas shopping I accomplished because I'm traveling so much next month?
Oh, what was it?
Was Saturday night getting a text from you, Levine. I mean, I heard it from New Jersey, so happy for you, buddy. I'm glad this is a blues list segment. I'm proud of that. That's not one of the things I'm thankful for, but I'm definitely proud of that. Any thoughts on the Bulls before I get into what I'm thankful for?
Uh, I don't want to panic. I think it's time to trade Lowry Markkinen. The time has come. He's not doing much out there. I know he's got an oblique
Gotta wait till
injury.
he's fully healthy. Gotta wait
Yeah.
till he's fully healthy. I don't know what it is about people bailing on their favorite athletes because they're, I get they're being paid to play the game, but if you're not healthy, you can't play to the best of your ability. I think you got to give Markkinen a fair shake. If he's doing this fully healthy, then by all means, send him packing alongside Jim Boylan. Send them on a banana boat out to the Western Seaboard. But right now, you got to give him a shot to get healthy, man. Come on, you're a patient guy.
Yeah, it's just the thing you have to be careful with these guys is that the contracts kind of creep up on you, and the problem is Lowry's going to get a big deal in free agency, and that's only that's not far away now. I mean, everyone's kind of thinking of him as a very young player, but he's been in the league now a little while, and what that means is he's got a couple years. He's got this year, and then after next year, he's going to be a restricted free agent, and with his combination of shooting, someone's going to pay him more money than the Bulls should. So you have to start thinking about trading him now if you're going to do it, because otherwise, I think you might lose some value off him. I mean, you can wait till next year, but if a team really likes him, you might want to strike while the iron is hot, because honestly, I don't think he's going to look great in this Boylan system. The way that Boylan's coaching is not encouraging, and I'm not sure things are going to get much better for Lowry with the way that they're playing and the way that the rotations have been.